Today I'm going to present on digging into DMAC for you guys because we just finished all our benchmark testing yesterday. I figured it'd be a good time to be able to go through and kind of dig into all the different types of reports that we can pull on DMAC because, you know, 3 out of the 4 of us are new to the district and haven't used DMAC either in a long time or ever until this year, and we never were formally trained prior to now. And so I know that Clinton's been here, but she also was not teaching us our subject prior to this year. So the data that she was looking at was for different purposes and was probably not even housed in DMAC for the most part. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to run through each of the different types of data reports that you can run in DMAC. Some of them are more beneficial for what we're looking for, and some of them are not as beneficial, but it's still worth looking at them for a second and knowing exactly what information you can gather from them. So I will first start off by going through our objective first. So the objective is that the learner will gain knowledge on what information is available in each of the data reports that are in DMAC and how to utilize the data to drive your instruction. Because we are in STAAR prep time, you know, this is going to be totally applicable to what we're doing. So I'm going to dig right into it. Whenever you log into DMAC and you click on the reports, you've got all these different types of reports that you can run. And so depending on whether or not you are logged into an admin account or to a teacher account, there's different levels of reports that you can run. So if you ever are searching things on DMAC, specific reports, sometimes you may not be able to find them because we do have limited access in comparison to admin. But everything I'm talking about today, we do have access to. You can look at things that are from the teacher level, student level. You can search specific criteria and kids, and you can search by groups once you make custom groups, and I'll cover that with you guys today too. First, you know, I'm going to go in order, and I've given you guys a handout that's got like a quick reference sheet. That way you can look at it whenever you are trying to look at your own data, and I'll have some exercises for you to do in a little while where you're going to actually pull reports from your DMAC account on your most recent benchmarks we took this and last week. So the very first one is the performance summary, and when you click on performance summary, this is going to give you, most of these reports are going to be when you're looking in the class view, okay, or clicking on class. It's going to give you your overall performance summary for all the classes that you teach, for each content area for the test that you're checking on. So on the performance summary, that's all going to show you the number of kids that passed and the percentage that correlates to and did not pass. And then your STAAR performance standards, that's exactly, you know, based on the most recent cutoffs that we have for approaches, meets, and masters. It's going to tell you the number of students that met at each level and what the criteria was set at for different percentages to meet those levels and what the overall percentage you had in that grade level. And then that last one is the cumulative STAAR performance standards. That's where you take, you know, you're trying to collectively look at ultimately how many kids do you have that meet approaches. That's where you take all the students that got approaches, meets, and masters and see what percentage that is out of your total student population in your grade level. So here the approaches would be 98% because overall 98% of kids pass the test, whether they got approaches, meets, or masters. And then the masters total percentage is composed of the amount of kids that got got meets and masters, which composes 78%. And then the masters was 39% on this particular exam that I have pulled up. So that one is like a really quick, you know, snapshot of where you sit right now. If that were the benchmark you just took was STAAR, how your classes were performed. And you can pull this report for each individual class that you teach, or you can do it collectively all your classes at once. And that's the one that I pulled was out of all the students. Right below it is the continuation of the performance summary, because we had the 2 versions of the benchmark where they had content and language supports or not. That's where you're seeing those 2 pieces that are together. That's why you see like at the top 59 students and 19. That totals up to the total students in the grade level. I know.
I hate it. Turn around.
And next was the student performance. that's basically just going to give a list of all your students in alphabetical order. It'll have their ethnicity, whether they passed or not, and it'll also give you what STAAR performance standard they were at, whether below standard approaches meets masters. It also provides their score and their raw score.
So like from last year's?
Well, this is actually just the math benchmark that we just took. And that tells you what they scored and what that raw score would have been.
What's a raw score?
So raw score is
So like out of?
Well, it depends. Here there's 43 possible
Like questions.
Points or whatever. That's how many total points they got.
Okay.
Yeah. Even though the test had 34 questions, some of them had multiple responses.
Yeah, so like 33 out of the 30, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For that report, I think it's just a quick way to have your roster in front of you and
Their
see
percentages.
the percentage and what level each kid was at.
Mm-hmm.
And then next we've got our student responses. So whenever you pull that report, it is showing you exactly what each student in your class or classes responded to each of the questions, as well as see if they passed or not, what their score was, and the number of points they earned. This, I think, has really been, for me, when I think about, how can I use this piece of data, it's more so if you're trying to look for trends in, say, students that did answer the wrong, got the answer incorrect.
Mm-hmm.
If the majority that got the answer incorrect chose, for example, looking here at question 8, I see a lot of A's that, for kids that answered incorrectly. So that would then make me want to go to that test and look at it and say, okay, well, what was it about answer choice A? What error or misconception might the kids have that are making them pick A? And then next we've got the student responses by demographic, which here I think this is most beneficial when you're looking at sub-pops and knowing, who counts in multiple, counts more than once as far as our campus meeting different goals that we have, with the state of Texas. And, that could also help you see if there's a certain group of kids that need extra intervention or need extension activities and whatnot. And we've got next the targeted skills report, which I really liked this one because I like that it's giving you data based on one assessment, and it's showing you in a quick little snippet, which you could literally cut apart and give to individual kids if you needed to. It shows you the question number, what the standard was on each specific one, and whether they got it correct or incorrect, and what they responded, if they passed, what their score was, their points. And it also shows you in each of the reporting categories that was tested on that assessment, how many out of the total they got correct. So you can see, like, for math anyways, does this student struggle the most with being able to computation and algebraic reasoning? Are they having trouble with adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, or are they struggling mostly with financial literacy teaks? That really kind of helps with them being able to identify where their needs are, because we like to give our kids ownership of their learning. Well, if they can see this and understand, like, oh man, okay, so on the benchmark, since this is collectively, essentially all the TEKS or a lot of the tested TEKS, if there's an area they're struggling in, they should know right away. They can hop on serious on their own and work on lessons that pertain to those standards to help them.
I wish I would have had this before I did the TEKS breakdown.
Me too.
I had to mark exactly what it shows. I'm like, this would save so much.
That looks
Yes.
exactly
For the
like.
love.
Well,
Is that what you were
The thing
saying
that you
you
shared
could
with me.
pull?
Yes, because
It looks exactly like the one I make.
in the past, like I've
so
either created my own,
Yeah.
not know, even because
Well, I had them
and
build
this
all
report's
that
available.
out on a piece of paper.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
Yeah.
us
wow.
too. Well, I think it is
Well.
helpful for them to fill it out. The kid.
Yeah, but they could even use this to fill it out and save me a whole lot of effort going through and saying every question number and which one it lined up with.
Yeah, and because I use the TEKS dot plot. Well, it should save me time. They could look here and then plot the new
plot
TEKS that
it.
they're
Yeah,
struggling
got
on,
it.
so they're still having to see it. But
Yeah.
Would you just print that out and then cut them
Yeah.
and give them each their little string?
that's what I'm thinking.
And then they can do their weakness and stuff based on the reporting category performance without having to go to count and it tells them.
Yep, it's already done for you.
Is there a report that lets you take all assessments for the school year and combine them all to one report that looks like that?
There is one that can let you look at comparisons
Okay.
across the different tests. It's not going to look identical to this, but I think that I have a screenshot of one of them in there that we can take a look at.
Okay.
So yeah, this one was pretty awesome. And what I ran it for was the entire, all my classes at once, not just, and it automatically generated it, just alphabetical order for the whole grade level, all 77 kids that tested. And then here's item analysis. This is one that we're probably most familiar with, where it's got the TEKs listed for each question number. They're color coded based on whether it's a supporting standard, a readiness standard, or a processing standard, or a combination. What percentage overall the class or the classes, depending on how you run the report, performed and getting the correct answer. And then it's got the little nifty bar graph, which I personally like the bar graph better because it's condensed and you can just, it's a quick visual. You can tell, okay, wow, number 8, 11, 20, and 29, those are the ones we need to hit again as a whole group, for sure.
What's interesting on here is, like, looking at mine, a lot of the ones that are not yellow are the multiple choice or the inline, which are the new item types.
And you would think it may be different because it's so.
I'm like, maybe that's a, yeah.
Yeah. And then there's, in a few slides, you'll be able to see something that's about the new question types too. That's pretty neat.
It's interesting.
So here's the item comparison, and this is just comparing what each student responded to each individual item or question number that's on the test. And this is just like here. This is just question 10. What each student responded, and the one that's grayed is the correct answer there. And so this is another, pretty easy way to be able to see who got it right, who got it wrong. Here's a multiple response, how that looks. And it may be beneficial in knowing, if you should review of that type of question because the majority missed it. It's just, whether you want to see it on the bar graph as a percentage or see where your X's are distributed. But you can also do, like you asked earlier, Kim, the comparisons across different tests. And then here's what I was talking about with the new item types. This shows the new item type mastery that's contained a little, pie chart. And it shows you, like, for example, this one was number 2 is multiple response. Obviously, the kids are really good on this, so 97% of kids got it right. And got a score of 2, which means 2 out of 2. And you can see how many students got no points or 1 point. And you see the breakdown. And so I was kind of surprised too that a lot of the multiple responses, whether it's inline choice or hotspot or whatever, they were doing pretty good on it. It's like it's not really phasing them much, which I'm glad for math anyways. I guess because they've had so much exposure with the unit assessments throughout the year that it's not really that big of a deal to them anymore.
One of the things I noticed, I had a kid do this, they took off, like if it was a multi-select, they took off one of their answers and tried to submit their test, and it flags it and says you've not answered all your questions.
Okay,
Because I wanted to know, do I need to go through and look at every kid's? And so once I saw that, I was like, oh, good.
Yeah, that's reassuring knowing that it's gonna actually tell them, like, hey, you only clicked one of them. Here's the reporting category performance. And so this just shows, collectively how the students overall performed in each of the 4 reporting categories that were tests that are in math. And then the number of questions that were tested on each reporting category, what percentage of the test that it made up, and what weight it had, and then which level of mastery that they had also. And so, it tells me, obviously, reporting category 4 needs a boost. And so that would help drive instruction or with different activities you're going to be using to reinforce during your STAAR countdown. And we've got our reporting category tutorial. This one's going to show students that are below 70% mastery on each reporting category, so that you can use these for interventions. And it also tells you the overall mastery or level of mastery that they had across your entire class. So in reporting category 1, the students overall had 80% mastery. So that's not a concern as a whole group. It's just a concern amongst these students are 67%, 50%, 33%. And this is the whole grade level. I know it looks like a whole lot, but you never think of it in one class. But yeah, out of 80 students, those are the ones that need the intervention for those reporting, those standards in that category.
I've been trying to pull it.
Yeah.
But I didn't know what report would do it the easiest. This one's definitely the easiest.
Yes. So with the reporting categories can be a lot more broad, but it gets a lot more specific once you get
The TEEP ones.
to the SE standards. So we've got our TEEPS performance report, which is going to, this one was kind of hard for me to understand at the beginning, because I'm like, TEEPS performance, I think, TEEPS obviously is standards, but it's not going for each specific standard. What I learned from digging around is that it's what I said, clusters, standard clusters, like all the 5.2s, all the 5.3 standards, the A, B, C, D, E.
Chunks them a little bit.
Yeah, they're chunking them, and it was making no sense because the way they labeled it, it says item,
Yeah.
as if it's like question number
Question,
2, 3,
yeah.
and so I had to
Yeah.
look across the different reports to understand that that's what that was showing. And so I saw that there really were 9 different, nine different TEEPS clusters that were tested, and that's how they performed in all the 5.2s, 3s, 4s, 5s, 6s, 7s, 8s, 9s, and 5.10s. And so it gives you, just to know, it helps you know, is it, for math anyway, all right, is there an issue with place value going on? Are there issues with financial literacy? Are there issues with classifying 2-dimensional figures, with graphing, with numerical patterns, you name it. But it's still a little broad for me for what I like to pull when I'm really trying to dig into data. And then there's the tutorial version. It's going to list kids' names that were below 70% mastery in those clusters. And again, it shows you the overall mastery, percentage mastery for the whole grade level. This is the one that I really, really like, okay? This is the SE performance, where it's going to tell you every single standard that was tested on there, how many times it was tested, what percentage mastery that your kids had overall. And again, I like looking at this version because, I'm really familiar with my TEEPS, so I like looking at it just the quick way. I can see my 4 target areas that I need to hit the most, and then I have some that, are in the 50s, 60s percentile, where I know that intervention needs to happen there with mini lessons, different extension activities I provide, just more exposure to those standards. And, it's color coded too, to easily identify processing, readiness, and supporting standards.
Wait, is that with the yellow and the red? No, that was. Oh, I see the
So right
green
here.
and the blue. Okay,
Yeah,
I
so
was
these
like,
are
wait.
green and blue.
Okay, I see it. Okay, never mind. What did they know?
And then here's the one I use whenever I'm wanting to meet with kids in small groups. This is my absolute favorite. It's the SE tutorial. So you can run this for each individual class instead of here, I ran it for all
So
4
do you
classes
push
combined.
class to switch out?
Yeah, I would put class
Instead of teacher?
instead of teacher, right. And then it'll pull it for each of your sections that you teach and make them on a separate page.
So if I click all of them, it's still gonna separate it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so that one, it really helps identify which kids need reteach on each specific standard. And then, obviously if you don't see the student's name there, that means, of course, on the other end, that you can dig deeper with those kids because they're ready for it. They have a really good grasp of the concept. But this helps me so much to where I don't have to spend a whole lot of time trying to organize my groups. Because I've always been the kind of person that's I want to try to think what are all the kids that all need help with this one
Right.
standard? And I'm like, well, quit stressing out putting them like that in a table group together. Just pull them when you need them, you know what I mean? Just based off of similar standards that they have to struggle with. And, you may see your high performer, his name sitting there in one spot every once in a while because everybody has a spot that they have, misconceptions or need some more practice. But yeah, that's one of my definite faves. Here's the student reporting category performance, and it's just letting you know in a different display how many out of the total questions in each reporting category the student was successful on. And again, it contains what STAAR performance level they reached, the raw score, and their percent score. And then here's the comparison reports that I was going to talk about next. So when you want to look at comparison reports, this is really going to be helpful for y'all too, because y'all both teach the same content area. Y'all could not only look across your own different classes, how kids performed, but you can compare, say there's on question 3, Kim's kid's got like 84% and yours is sitting at 68. That could be a conversation you'll have, like, well, you know, like, did you say anything different even though you planned together? You know, sometimes when you're delivering, you say different things and different conversations lend itself to different ideas being shared. Maybe there'd be an aha moment of, oh yeah, let me do that with my kids, help them, you know, boost their percentage a little bit. And here you can choose, you know, as many different tests as you want to compare across. And what this is going to do here, whenever I click on the TEKS performance by student and SE performance by student, that one will let me know over all those tests, each time, like collectively, each of those standards has been hit or tested, and what total overall percentage that kid has gotten it right. Because, you know, on one assessment, they might get the 2 questions wrong. It doesn't necessarily mean they don't know that standard if they, in other tests, have been able to be successful with it.
Could be the question or whatever.
Yeah. And then there's the SE performance comparisons. And these allow you to compare the percent mastery on each standard that's been tested across the multiple tests. And it includes a total number of times that each standard was tested. So you can see here it's like says 86% for 5.3A for Collins, and it says 6 out of 7. So it's been tested 7 times, and she's gotten it right 6 out of 7 times. It's been tested this year. So this really gave me a good picture, you know, almost better than the benchmark, even though, you know, because the benchmark is just one set of data.
So which is that's off comparison?
Mm-hmm.
For that to be able to know that, for example, she got it right 6 times out of 7, did you have to click all the tests?
So
Okay.
when I was on that previous
So SE performance by student.
part right there,
Okay.
you click reports and click comparison.
And you clicked all of them.
Yeah, I went ahead and clicked all the math tests, so that anytime it's tested this year on DMAC, it's
SE
going to be drawn in.
performance.
That's awesome.
Is that the TEKS performance by student or SE?
SE,
Okay.
because the TEKS is always going to be clusters.
Uh-huh.
The SE is going to be the individual standards.
And that's cool.
Yeah, I thought that one was pretty.
It's interesting that Gracie has gotten 0% over 5.2 that. That's interesting.
And then same thing with that TEKS performance, but like I said, it's not going to be as specific.
Like 100 for everything.
So this one isn't as impactful for me as the SE performance comparison.
It's interesting.
And then here I'm going to show you how to create custom groups, because this is a really, hold on a second, I gotta get this volume turned up, possibly.
It's good stuff.
So if the audio ends up not working since I'm connected to here without the other piece, then I'm just gonna say what's happening in the silent video.
I really have never been trained on
So
custom groups in DMAC. What you're trying to do is go underneath the tools section and click on utilities.
Do we do this at the same time?
And then from here, you're gonna hover over your students drop down that's here on the left hand side and select groups.
And I have this top for you on page
And I
2.
made a group previously, but you want to then go to your top right section and click the green plus sign where it says new group. And go ahead and name it. This could be Miller HR Group 1. With an asterisk so we can denote that's kind of a sample. I've got it there, and then you can select students to add to that group. So by default, all of your students are going to be appearing here. We can go to the big checklist, or you can select specific ones if you are like me and have a lot of kids. So let's just say that I'm going to click on Daniel, Weston, Mackenzie, Camden, and Melody. So you can add the selected following step.
Okay.
And now on the left hand side, you see the students' names there. And if you accidentally picked one you weren't intending to, you can click it and remove it. Alright, so I'll put Daniel back in that group. And once you're finished there, the group is now already created. There's no need to push the save button or anything. So now you could essentially click on students and groups again. And you now see that new group that I made. And you can edit the group by clicking on the little pencil picker if you need to update it at any point. So from there, you then can run reports reports based on the specific groups of kids. So let me show you what that looks like real quick. So I'm going to go to take score, and then here I'm going to go to reports, and I'll click on instructional. And then notice you have your teacher, class, student, search, and group. And then now click group. And now select the test I want to look at. And you can see the student groups here. And let's say I want to pull the data for that group 1 we just created. That there. And then we could do like the TEACS tutorial or SE tutorial because that's going to give me the groupings based on the percentage of mastery they had in different standards. I'm actually going to do the SE tutorial and click view read group. And so now if I look down here, kind of zoom in here, I can see that 5.4F, some defining numerical expressions, was tested twice, and overall 6% mastery among that whole group. And here are the kids that did not have 70% or higher. So you can see Melody was at 50% and Camden wasn't 0. So obviously that's standard that they would benefit from having some intervention with. And then if here we go back up, I was wondering where that previous page was. Here are how the group performed on each of the other standards that were tested. And then you'll see here and there, there's just different students that are spread out throughout the standards that could benefit from reteach or additional practice with each of the standards that are listed.
Okay, so that was just, I just did a recording of it because I wasn't sure if I'd be able to do it live while I was in the presentation. I plan on using this custom groups, as early as tonight, because I want to be able to see once I start pulling kids based off benchmark data, who needs help with what. And I like that I don't have to worry about trying to figure all that out on my own. It's going to take out the guesswork for me. Just let me know what is it that group of kids needs help with. And so, moving on here, we've got our SE tutorial for the custom groups. You just saw that live, but there's a screenshot of that group again that you saw in the video. And then there's one additional thing that I wanted to mention to you guys as I'm nearing the end of reviewing all the different types of reports. There is a button called one click, excuse the tree, right there, the one click button. I never knew what that was. I never even explored it until I was really digging into everything DMAC related. And on your back page, it tells you exactly how to utilize this feature. And what that does is it allows you to select which reports you want to automatically run whenever you click reports under a specific test. So you don't have to sit there and try to remember which ones. You can already set it to do it automatically. Yeah, coolest thing. See, over here, I've always seen this. It says reports, scores. Yeah. I click reports and there'll be nothing there.
Yeah, it says one click not available.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, what good does that do? Well, that's because we didn't set up which reports you want to automatically run. So when you click that gear up there in the top right,
the drill up,
set the ones you want. Okay. Yeah. And when you click reports, click that button, it just voila, creates a PDF.
That's so cool.
So major time saver. And so these are the ones that I decided to add to my one click. I added student quintile, which that's the one I did not cover during this training because that's the one we are familiar with. Of all of the ones we've seen. So it's student quintile, of course, because I want to see what level each kid, made it to on the assessment. The SE performance is my favorite. And then of course SE tutorial. That's my number one. And then the item analysis. And you might have different ones that you end up favoring, and
that's so funny.
Awesome too.
I do the same thing. I click it every time.
Yes. Now I'm like, okay, wow, I can't believe I've been doing that so long.
So we've all been doing it.
I know. Well, and no one's told us different. So until we kind of mess around with it on our own, don't really know. So we've got all this data. Okay, now what? Okay, so naturally we need to use it to drive instruction. So you can use it for a variety of things, for creating your groups, for creating small groups, establishing which standards need to be reinforced through mini lessons as a whole group, which ones can be activities for kids that need to gain additional practice. You know, my percentage that I put it at is, you know, if there's less than 75% mastery, I assume, you know, that's the ones I'm like, okay, I need to reteach this whole group. And then the ones that have more than 75% or 75 or more, then I go ahead and put those as ones that I can use for in a smaller group setting, whether it be with me or like as a station or an activity kids are doing with one another. And then of course to provide extension activities for the high mastery teams. And so now it is time to actually get to dig into your own data. I have a little worksheet. There's 5 different things that you're gonna do where you actually get to dig into your data. You create, or you know, pull some information from. So what you'll do here in just a second is, I was just gonna give us 5 minutes to be able to kind of actually sit down and dig through some of our data and run some reports. The first thing you're gonna do is to run a report that's gonna show you the percent mastery on each question on the benchmark. So, did you go over off the top of your head which report you'd want to run, and you can reference your reports pages also.
The TX one.
Okay, so yeah, you can do your item analysis. Is going to be probably pretty easy to find that information. And then once you do that, I want you to try to identify your 3 lowest standards for each of your classes. So if you've got 2, obviously you put 2 sets, and then Clinton, you get to do 4. Or you can just do 2 if you want.
So we went to item analysis.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And so right now you're looking at all your classes, but try to run it for each class.
I did.
See, I think that I normally run it for all of my ones, and it makes it harder.
Click on,
I have to do it one at a time.
Yeah, on that one.
I hate that.
and then you can click on,
Well, and I don't know why they put your homeroom. There's like a homeroom
click your
tab for me.
and then
on
you
some
can
of them,
click on
I don't know
both, and it'll separate them,
Okay, and then still
Yeah,
the
item
item
analysis.
analysis stuff. Okay.
right?
Okay, so now it's by class.
Yeah.
Where
So
does that-
over here you see
Miller,
nurse,
this is
nurse.
of course.
And so like I just jumped to the bar graph, but you can, you know, if you like it the other way around, that's fine too. Yeah. so you
See,
got-
okay, so part of it is like some of these questions are wrong. That's what makes this hard for me.
You're on your bar graph, your standards are what the same.
That's because I had clicked on the. It's on the. There's 2 different reports you run. One shows you the question numbers, and one shows you the standards.
This is hilarious. Look at this. Yours
I know which one it is.
compared to
I'm sure there's like a
That's
huge
like
difference.
red.
Oh yeah, the SE
SE
performance is going to show
performance,
you by
yes.
standard. Where you don't have to keep scrolling up and down to look at the.
Yeah. There we go.
So this one was the item analysis.
Yeah. I failed to start our timer, but I'll run it through a little bit. And maybe turn it down so that's not like the only thing I'm jamming out to. Okay.
Okay.
So you're possibly gonna write all of them.
And then, I mean, just observe, do you see all your classes having the same 3 low standards? And any ideas why or why not? Then you'll run an SE tutorial report, that's my favorite one. So you can see which kids you'd want to work with on some of the different standards.
So like again, this one was an incorrect question. If you told me not to do something, it's not right there.
Well, I guess the person that's not there, but that seems to have that sitting right there. too.
Wait, there's 2 of them. No, we're wrong.
What do they say about it?
He said that's not too big, so I don't know. I see who am I gonna email? And I'm like, dude, that makes some of the kids fail. Like, what?
Well, then I would
What
put that
classes
into,
Yeah, this
it.
stuff.
You
Yeah,
know,
like Devon had a 69 and the person
Your,
had a person count.
Oh, right here, whatever.
I mean, if you have to be correct, but
Yeah.
yeah. This one was a real one that I threw over.
Whoa.
So this is the T, huh? Contact 7B is the T.
Yep.
And this is like the mastery, huh?
So you have 75% that mastered it. So,
Yeah.
but looking at out of these right here, that's one of your lower ones.
Lower, yeah, it's orange.
So,
To me, it was more the type of question than it was the team. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because it was like about the rock. You know what I mean?
oh yeah. So maybe like they benefit by seeing some more
Rock
tricky,
with the frozen water.
tricky worded ones
Yeah.
again. You know, they're worded similar to
I just
that.
don't think I ever showed them that kind of example of erosion. You know what I mean? With water erosion.
And that'll be, once they see that a couple of times in their
I really
procedure,
think that was more what it is.
opposed to not having mastery of the concept.
Yeah. They use like wind and stuff like that.
I think that 5.7B was number 13 that they threw out. So editing verbs, I told her I this like. See how slow is it? I'm not gonna do this.
To all of your classes.
Yes. Because they're low, they're not ready for mom.
The other one was that soil question.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so SE tutorial report.
So on the SE tutorial report, what I want you to look at on this particular, like for this little exercise, is to look and see which standards overall as a class had 75% or higher, but just those specific kids, that are listed under did not. Because that would tell you what's just a small group thing, not a whole group thing. So like here you had 65% mastery overall because you had these seven kids got the question wrong. Now, you have to take consideration because one question to that standard covered. So it was either 100 or a 0. So that really skews the mastery whenever you're using
That was tried.
And that was the majority of our tests.
TRIE.
The majority of our tests was one question.
I know, that's what I hate. Like, in some of mine, not right.
I know to get like an accurate representation of like, do they
Like, you were
understand
supposed to have 5 at least over each sheet to
it?
make it accurate.
You need multiple,
It might mean
attempts.
that we have to be the teams.
Yeah, right.
No, really, like, I think the actual data percentages, you're supposed to have at least 5 to 10 questions over each team to be accurate.
Well, like this is.
Of course, like, that would be, most likely they're gonna be, they're on their own planet anyways, and resources, and that's one of the things your bucket list.
Okay, so this is that 5.6H that I had written down for both classes. Synthesize information to create new understanding. Was your 5.6H one of yours, Kim?
Alright, so that's our time's up for this little piece of it.
Well, yeah, I just wrote mine.
So what I want you to be able to do is really be able to utilize the reports that you feel are gonna be, beneficial for you to help drive your instruction and come up with activities and lessons and things over the course of the next, for me, 18 plus days before Math Star happens. And then, since, we've got all of our data, and then we want to be able to do part 2 of what I have planned for you guys, which is to actually find ways to engage our students in providing extra practice through STAAR prep games and activities. So that's why I asked you guys last week to be able to try to think of a couple of different ideas that you could bring to the table that we could apply into each of our content areas. Just because, the fact is we're going to have to be getting the kids to work, all kinds of problems, because a lot of it is practice, 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 even though we don't want to do just paper, pencil stuff all the time. Unfortunately, that's what STAAR is, or the digital version, So we want to make sure that they're getting exposed to a lot of the different question types and having to answer things in multiple different ways, but while maintaining their attention too in the process. So our objective for part 2, now that we've learned to run our reports, how to use the reports and the information that's there in the reports, is that the learner will obtain new activities and games to implement in the classroom to increase student engagement and mastery of concepts during the STAAR prep. So I'm going to start off by sharing too that I actually have not used these in my class this year, but I found them when I went down teacher TikTok and found some cool ideas I thought I'd share with y'all because, you know, the way that I use it in my room is going to look a little bit differently than it is in yours because we teach different content areas. So here's Wheel of Fortune. You can choose to do it like hangman style, you know, where they just call out letters and they get a point for each letter they get right. Or you could have them actually spin the wheel for point values. And I might do this so I can implement, like, you know, tie in math with adding and subtracting positive rational numbers. But it just depends on time too. You know, if I want to sit there and have kids do the spinning and all that. But basically, there's the game rules that I typed up. You would have students be put into teams, and then you present them with a question. And you can give them a different question or all the same question, and they can go through, you know, you can go through it on a rotation basis if you want team for team. And they show the answer they got, they get the correct answer, then they earn 1 point right away, and then they get to then guess a letter that's going to be in the puzzle. And so for each letter they get correct, they earn an additional point, and they can keep guessing letters until they guess one that's not in the word or phrase that you create. And so, you know, if a kid gets a question wrong, the rule I put in place is the other team can't just, you don't just go to the next team and say, okay, what did you get? Because eventually, especially with multiple choice, the fourth team's probably going to get it. 3 out of 4 got the wrong answer already. So we just move on to another question. And if you choose to solve the puzzle, you have to tell the teacher that, you know, hey, I'd like to solve the puzzle before moving on to another question, or that opportunity's gone. And if you were to get a word or phrase correct, you earn 5 points. And if you get the word or phrase wrong, then you lose 5 points. So you have to kind of, it's a gamble whether or not you want to take the chance to do that. Here's what it looks like. And so this is really a PowerPoint or a slides presentation. So what you do to edit, on the next slides over, it's going to tell you like how to edit, but quick version is whenever you're in edit mode for your slide, you can copy and paste those little white boxes and move them around.
Click and drag.
You know, you guys click and drag and create whatever, how many blanks you need for your word or phrase, and that's editable too, or you can change the category to give them. And on one of them, it was like a text box where you're actually like typing in where you're not in present mode. But the way I want to do it, I'm just gonna go ahead and put it in present mode like this, and we just use the pen.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
And go with it like that.
Yeah, that's smart.
But I think it'd be fun because it's some buy-ins, you know, game style version. So there's that how to edit, how to play the hangman version, and Wheel of Fortune version with spinning the wheel. And then you'll get a copy of this presentation. So if you click that link, that's going to make a copy for you of that game, where you can just create your own little questions. The second thing that I have is here.
I want to know what this is.
So this is the Unfair Game Prize Edition. So you, also if you watch the video, I'll explain again. Okay, so what happens in a quick video, you can tell the kids are really engaged and they're excited about it, but what it was, so I watched it multiple times and then saw some other TikToks that were explaining the same thing, was, so this is the Unfair Game, and you know, I played it before and some of y'all played it with sticks with positive and negative point values. Well, here what they did in this version was they put different prizes, like names of different prizes, like
Skittles,
body armor, you know, like Skittles,
yeah.
a pin, a special chair coupon, whatever you want, you know, up there. And you can put any amount you want. It can be 2 prizes, it can be 15, whatever you're willing to give to the kids. So those are the ones that are eligible to be claimed during the game. And so when it's the student's turn to answer a question, they get it correct, then they get to go to the board and write their name to claim a prize. And once all the spots are claimed, that's when it starts getting to be the unfair game, because then, like say, all the prizes are claimed, and it's Lauren's turn, whenever her name is chosen on the spinner, because that's the other unfair part, because you may get your name selected 5 times and another kid never.
So they answer a question and then you spin it, or?
So you display a question. All the kids are working the question out on their own.
Yeah.
And then you spin the spinner, and this is the lucky winner that gets to be able to see if they got the right answer or not.
Oh, okay, so they all saw then.
Yeah.
Then whoever it lands on, that's who shows you their answer.
Yeah, and so if you show, they show the answer, they have it right, they get to go to the board and claim a prize. Once all the prizes are claimed, then the game keeps going, but then that next person, say it's Lauren, she is chosen on the spinner, she has the right answer, and I call her up. She gets to go up and erase anyone's name she wants and take over their prize. And so it's constantly changing. You know what I mean? There's that like unfair factor the whole time. And the game ends once time is up. You know what I mean? Like, so you set a timer or class is up, whatever, and whoever's names are on the board at the end are the ones that get the prizes.
Oh
I love it.
So I thought that was really
How
fun.
many names did they have under each prize?
Well, they
Spots.
just keep erasing.
I guess you can change it.
Like-
So just one person gets each thing.
Oh, it's just one.
Yeah.
So you can
once
set
it's
like 6
under-
prizes
okay.
and only one person gets each one.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That makes
Or
sense.
you can keep it running.
That's what gets
Tally
it
and stuff, draw a
competitive.
line through it so you can see how many times it was stolen. That might be
That's
fun.
kind of funny.
But this is one that I don't think the kids would ever get tired of.
That
Like
is
Secret
cool.
Santa.
Yeah.
Getting your stuff
Right,
stolen.
you might get to
Yeah.
the school, and then I'm just like, and if you don't want it at the end, I just tell them, just say thank you, or just say, get
Yeah.
somebody that wants it, whatever.
How fun.
So there's my two.
That's easy too. I
Yeah,
feel like just
very.
like throw it together, not a lot to.
Yeah.
What's
not
an
time
easy spinner, put names and spinners?
Okay, well, so this again is a link. So
Okay.
if you click on the spinner, I'm afraid it's going to run me out of my
Yeah,
presentation.
that's fine.
It'll take you to the website
Okay.
where all you do is, you just type the names
And
and
it pops
spin it
in.
right there.
Okay.
I didn't do
That's
any
nice.
like sign up for free or anything
Yeah,
like that.
okay.
It was already there, ready to go.
That's so easy.
So fun.
Okay, so now Lauren's gonna share. I picked
Two.
one or two. Yeah. You wanna
Okay.
share?
Well, today was I can show you what we did today.
Okay.
I'm just gonna sit. Yeah. Okay.
I'll be
We
there.
did the relay race today, and again, easy, and they thought it was the coolest thing. I got like 10 cones from Coach, and like we went outside, and I stood in a certain area, and you know those like clear sheet protector things, so I put one task card in each one, so it, like protected them. And I had them like on the ground next to me, spread out, face up, and I put cones like spread out a good 20 yards out, so they had to like run,
Run.
like they were working for it. They were in teams of 2, so that they all had to, put in effort. And they have to run to me. They have to say like 10A. If they get it right, I say, okay, trade it. They drop theirs, get another one that they need, and they have to run back to their team. Only one person gets to run and solve the next one. It's like a relay race.
Okay.
But yeah, that's all it is. And like the top, I say like the first 3 teams to finish get the prizes or whatever. I just said random stuff. So that was really easy. And again, like just cut up the test cards and put them in the thing. We went outside. That's all we did. Like nothing special.
Yeah. No, that's
And then next week we're doing game day. So I just get a whole bunch of board games and the task cards again, and they have to like solve the question. And if their partner checks it, if they get it right, they get to drop a Connect 4 or move their spot in Candyland or take an Operation Body Part out. Like I'll have all different games, and they pick what game they want to play with the task cards. They're all doing the same task cards.
How do
Yeah.
you decide, like, who's, because some kids can't be together at a game. How do you?
So
group them?
I always do ability group, but I don't ability group them like low. So like every class I take, and I label them like my lowest kid to my highest, and I number them. And if I want them like 2 to 2, I'll cut my list in half, and so like number 1 and number 10 will be together. So it's your lowest kid and your low middle kid will be together, and your low high and your high kid will be together. So it's never low or low high, because the high one's gonna do all the work.
Right.
We always learned that in college, like hog and a log. There's always a hog and there's a log. So you don't want a hog and a log together
Buddy.
because the hog will drag the log.
Yes.
So you put like a log with like a middle log,
With a limb.
and then they both have to do a little bit of
Along
work.
with a limb.
And it works too if you do like groups of 3 or 4, because like instead of dividing it by 2, you divide it in quarters and you line them up so it's like 1, 4, 8, and whatever, and it makes sure that they're ability grouped in the correct way. So it's never like a high and a low. I can show you that.
Yeah.
I need you to show
Well,
me.
I think that like
Yeah.
behaviorally, like you have to handle that as it comes.
Yeah,
And
no.
If there's some that just can't handle themselves, then
Yes.
you may have to go hog and a log or log and a log
Yeah.
for
Well,
a
if
second.
I
and then-
split it too, I'll put them in the groups that it puts them in, and then I'll be like, okay, well, they're like back to back in line, and it's like Jay and Avery, or whatever. I'll like switch. I'll be like, okay, these 2 can't be together, but they're really similar academically. I'll just switch her and him, and it's still like academically placed, but I adjust once I cut the list.
Gotcha.
Yeah. It's a quick way. I do that for all of my anything partner or group. I cut them like that most of the time.
I like it. So in the presentation, Lauren's Jeopardy
Oh
board
yeah, that's
game.
free.
is there. You click this, it's gonna be a link to one you can edit with your own questions and whatnot. And so it's Jeopardy. That's like a point value.
It's really easy too. Again, I just screenshot and paste them into the presentation, and it's all linked to the slide that you click on for the money and everything. So
Okay.
you just edit it for your stuff.
And then, Kim, did you want to talk about Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader in the I Have Who Has part?
So I have who has, can be used with any subject matter. It doesn't, I'm just showing like academic vocabulary, but it doesn't have to be that. I've done figurative language before, and, it can be done with anything. But you, pass all the cards out, every kid gets a card. Sometimes, so I've also played it to where, like, they'll partner up. Like, maybe it's not, individual, or maybe you can put two kids together that have the same card, or whatever, if you need to do it that way. And you just pass them out, they read their card, and then I usually I'll be like the one who starts it off, so that at least it gets going. And then, like this one says, I have the first card. Who has the moral or the lesson of the story? So they have to look what they have, and they have to find, I have, and they actually tell that definition. And then they say, who has, using your prior knowledge plus the evidence in the text to answer a question. So they have to look, and they have to say, I have, and then they just keep going. And if it turns out right, then the last card will say, I have such and such, and I also have the last card. So, it's really fun, and it's fun. It's funny how we'll go through it, and we get to the end, and it's like,
You're like, uh-oh.
even I'm like, uh-oh.
Like, what happened? Where did
Where did we go wrong?
Yeah, where did we go wrong? Where did we go wrong? But again, that comes from me not able to concentrate when everything's going on and miss it, Like, so that
My
comes
kids
to me.
like to time it on the first round, and then we'll switch up cards,
That
and then
stresses
we
me out
do
so
it
much.
again,
Me too.
and
As a
they
kid.
try to.
Like, what, beat their time?
But
Yes.
that's so fun. It turns into a game.
But they do
You know?
beat their time, of
Yeah.
course, because
Yeah, they already
they've
heard
already
that.
read it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I
That's
mean,
so fun.
And when doing that, it definitely makes them, like, stay accountable for paying
Yeah.
attention.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Because you can't sit there just going to la la land. They're like,
I
it's
know.
your turn, you
Like,
have it.
who has moral? It's moral. Who has moral?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
do try to, sometimes we'll partner up just for those, those kids that don't,
Yeah.
or because they, or let them say things like that. Who has
Yeah.
this? But it does hold them accountable, and they will for sure
And they have to pay
get
attention.
called out if they don't.
That one's
do
good too
stuff.
because it goes for like all grade levels.
Yeah.
So, like